Thank you for choosing an MxV vertical door from DL Manufacturing. It is important that the door be installed and used correctly and safely. All employees should be trained on how to properly use the door. Installers should completely review both this video and the manual prior to starting the installation. It is of prime importance that the door jamb is plumb and true. There must be adequate mounting surface available for mounting the rails and upper support brackets, and the surfaces must be free of any damage or defects. Installation by a certified MxV installer is recommended to ensure the proper operation of the door and a full warranty. Please make sure to locate all the parts you'll need to install your new MxV door. You can refer to job-specific build sheets for a complete list of parts. Also be sure to check the installation sheet and make sure that the clearance height, door opening width, and door opening height all correspond to the door dimension drawing. Each door is specific to each door opening. Proper alignment of the mounting rails is critical to the proper operation of the door. Use a plumb bob or level to ensure that each rail is level and square before fastening it to the door frame. If the door frame is not square, set the rails so that they align with each other rather than with the door frame. All 4 mounting rails are identical and may be reversed. If the door jamb or wall conditions restrict you from installing the mounting rails as indicated, flip the rails around and attach them so that the short leg is facing away from the door opening and flush to the wall. Snap a new plumb line 2 3/8 inches to the outside of the initial line. The mounting rails should end up 4 3/4 inches plus door opening width apart. Mounting rails can be comprised of several sections. Always be sure that the shorter mounting rail section is on the bottom. Secure all sections to each other using the supplied junction plates. Align the short leg of the mounting rails with the door jamb so the distance apart matches the A dimension on the approval drawing, and attach using installer supplied fasteners. Ensure the rails maintain the same spacing all the way to the top. Rails must be kept level and plumb throughout. Attach the upper mounting rails to the lower mounting rails using the provided junction plates with bolts and flange nuts. Be sure the upper mounting rails maintain the same spacing all the way to the top. The plastic tracks are mounted on the rails. The tracks are labeled to indicate their position on the rails. Slide the track over the rail so that the webbed portion is pointing into the door opening. Make sure the track is flush to the floor and fully sealed over the rail. Using the pre-drilled holes in the rail as guides, drill 1/4 inch holes throughout the track. Be sure to bolt the outside junction plate holes through the track as well. Door panels are numbered to indicate the order of installation. Install panel 1, which has the bottom seal brush, then install panel 2 second, panel 3 third, etc. Install the panel with the header seal and the cable attachment last. First, trim the rubber seal back about 1 inch to allow for a smooth installation. Position panel 1 so that the bottom seal brush is pointed outward and the hinges are on the inside. Feed the brushes into the brush guide, ensuring all bristles are captured in the brush guide on both sides. Lower the panel to the floor. Insert panel 2 in the same fashion as panel 1, lowering it to the top edge of the previously installed panel. Be sure not to pinch the black tab between the panels and that the black tab is seated on the outside of the door panels. Then attach the pull-down rope to the lower bolt on the right side of panel 2 and remove the washer. Insert the supplied shoulder bolts through the hinges with the threads facing the track and secure with the supplied nylocks. Repeat this process on the other side of the door. Repeat these steps until all panels are installed. Then be sure to go back and tighten all the hinge bolts. Secure the bearing brackets to the upper mounting rail using the junction plates, flange bolts, flange nuts, and bolts and nylocks. Level and plumb the brackets, making sure they are the right distance apart. See the installer build sheet for exact dimensions. Secure the bearing brackets to the wall using the appropriate fasteners. Install the leaf spring using bolts and nylocks. For torsion spring doors, the leaf springs face the wall and are mounted on the outermost holes. For counterweight doors, the leaf springs also face the wall but are mounted on the innermost holes. If welding the bearing brackets and leaf springs, see the installation guide for instructions. Slide the upper plastic track over the mounting rail. Ensure the track is seated on the mounting rail and tight to the lower track. Pre-drill holes in the plastic track and secure with flange bolts and washers. Attach the slide locks to the metal end cap braces on panel 4, using at least 2 Tech screws on each slide lock. Engage the slide bar of the lock and position the lock receivers so that the top of the slot in the receiver is bottomed out on the top of the slide lock. Once positioned properly, fasten the lock receivers to the track and mounting rail, using at least 2 Tech screws per receiver. For torsion spring installations, please see the next chapter. For counterweight installations, please skip the next chapter and proceed to the chapter following it. To prepare the shaft for assembly, slide the spring bearings onto the shaft, then slide the springs onto the shaft. Black on right, red on left. Then seat the spring bearings into the end cones of the springs. Slide the vertical lift drums onto both sides, black on right, red on left. Then slide the outer bearings onto the shaft. Install the entire shaft spring assembly into the bearing brackets. Secure the bearings with bolts and nylocks, making sure the grease fittings are easily accessible. Install the center support brackets and secure. Then install the 2 shaft collars and tighten. Using a 1/8 inch hex driver, tighten the set screws in the bearings so the shaft does not slide from side to side. Align the drums so the cables do not rub, 5½ inches from the bearing bracket. Install the shaft keys and tighten both set screws. Attach the cable to the lift bracket on the top panel of the MxV door. Attach the cable to the drum and wrap the cable around the cable drum until the cable is taut. Clamp a vice grip around the shaft and wedge it against the wall so that the shaft can no longer turn freely. Ensure the vice grip is very secure. Wind the torsion springs according to the number of turns suggested on the MxV packing checklist. This number is just a starting point, and tension may need to be added or removed accordingly. Then tighten the set screws on the winding cones, being sure a screw is set in the keyway of the shaft. The MxV door should be slightly upward biased when finished. After the springs are wound, be sure and test that the door is operating properly. Secure the bearing bracket for the counterweight tube to the wall outside of the mounting rail. This should be positioned to the other bearing bracket with the junction plate in between them and fastened. Slide the left cable drum, red 4-inch drum with cable coming off the front, onto the shaft. Then slide the bolt flange bearing for the center support and the right cable drum, the black 4-inch drum. Bring the assembly up to the bearing assemblies and insert one end of the shaft into one bearing assembly and then the other end into the other bearing assembly. You may need to loosen the bearings and set screws in order to slide the shaft through the bearings. Slide the shaft slightly to the left to get the third right cable drum, black 5¼ inch drum with the cable coming off back side, onto the shaft in between the outer bearing support bracket and the bearing bracket. The drum should be positioned so that the cable comes off the back of the drum. Now, install the counterweight cable safety device. The counterweight cable safety kit is designed to stop the MxV door from falling in the event of a counterweight cable failure. Separate the safety cog by removing the screws from the shaft collar. Align the cog halves on the shaft between the counterweight drum and the outer bearing bracket. The shaft collar should be towards the outer bearing bracket. Verify that the key tab on one half of the cog aligns with the keyed shaft. Verify that the safety cog's outside face is 1 1/8 inches from the outer bearing bracket. Slide the split shaft collars over the ends of the shaft on each side and then slide to the bearing assembly and tighten. Install the shaft keys and tighten the cable drum set screws for the door drums only. Attach the door cables to the lift brackets on the top panel of the MxV door. Insert the ends of the door cables through the top slots on the side of the cable drums and wrap the cables around the drums until the cable is taut. Cables should be coming off the front side of the drum away from the wall. Then clamp a vice grip around the shaft and wedge it against the wall so that the shaft can no longer turn freely. Ensure the vice grip is very secure. Attach the counterweight cable to the drum, rotate the drum, wrapping the cables around the drum until there is approximately 6 to 8 inches of cable hanging off the drum. The cables should be coming off the back side of the drum, and the eyelet should be just below the tensioned cable cop. Then install the shaft key, position the drum 1 3/4 inches from the bearing bracket, and tighten the set screws. See the included MxV build sheet for the suggested counterweight stack, and verify that there are no curbs along the building wall. They will interfere with the counterweight path. First, remove the 1/2-inch bolt and nylock to gain access to the interior of the basket, and connect them to the quick link on the end of the cable. Ensure the door is locked before attaching the counterweights. If your MxV vertical lift door does not have the lock option, adequately secure the MxV door by tying off the pull-down strap to ensure that the door does not fly up when the counterweights are attached. Install the counterweights per the factory build sheet, stacking the weights from largest to smallest. Reattach the vertical strap using the hardware that was removed at the start of the process. Test the operation of the MxV door. A properly balanced door should be slightly upward biased. The door will always clear the header but will not bounce back into the opening. Add or remove smaller counterweight shims as necessary to properly balance the MxV door. Install the counterweight keeper, making sure it is tight against the weight stack. Using 2 Tek screws, secure the keeper to the 2 vertical straps so the weights are secure. Once the keeper is installed, wrap the counterweight basket with tie wraps to prevent any clanging. Attach the first wrap about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom, and the second at about 2/3 up from the bottom. The tie wraps should never be used to hold or secure the counterweights. Cut the tie wraps close to the basket. Attach the counterweight tube brackets to the mounting rails using the supplied Tek screws. There are 3 brackets per side. Place 1 bracket near the floor, 1 towards the top, and the other equal distance between the 2. Fit 1 long and 1 short counterweight tube tightly together and slide them over the counterweights until the tubes are flush to the mounting rail. Be sure to seat the tubes all the way, otherwise they may pull apart, resulting in damage. Utilizing the slots on the counterweight tube brackets, attach the counterweight tubes to the counterweight tube brackets with the provided tie wraps. Install the cable tensioning device on the same side as the counterweight bracket. The stop plate should engage one of the teeth of the cog in the event of a counterweight cable failure. Then wind the torsion spring with the spring tail resting against the bottom of the counterweight bracket. Move the counterweight cable out of the way and rotate the arm to ensure the arm rotates freely without binding and will engage the safety cog. Bolt on the swing arm through the slot. Attach the spring plate assembly to the mounting rail on each side using the provided Tek screws. Adjust to align with the hold-down bar. Verify that the Tek screws go through the plastic track and not just push it away from the mounting rail. When the door is in the down position, the hold-down bar should be positioned towards the top center of the clip. Attach the corrective slot backer plates to the mounting rail using the provided Tek screws. The plate should be between the plastic track and the back of the mounting rail. The plate supports the corrective slot from the underside. Be sure and install the plates to both sides. Crimp the ends of the header seal brush assembly to ensure the brush does not come out. Attach the header seal brush assembly to the header using the approved fasteners. When the door is closed, the brush should be touching the underside of the door header brush seal. The header seal brush assembly must make contact with the brush attached to the top panel at all points. This creates the seal at the top of the door. To make the installation of the upper track seal easier, raise the door all the way and pull the bottom panel out of the track towards the inside of the building. This will allow you better access to the area where the upper track will attach. Locate the upper left and right track seals. They are labeled left and right. Starting on the left side of the door, locate the upper track seal and fasten the seal to the mounting rail using the supplied Tek screws. Verify that all gaps are sealed between the door, header brush, and wall when the door is in the closed position. Then, repeat this process on the other side. The last step to ensuring a gap-free seal on your MxV door is to seal all light gaps with caulk. Look for gaps all along the area where the door assembly meets the building, and be sure to seal them completely. Management personnel should understand and comply with all safety standards. They and the employees who operate the door are responsible for knowing and adhering to all safety standards when working with the MxV door. All posted safety instructions should be visible to all operators or staff involved with the dock door. No posted safety instructions should be obscured from view. Any dock doors that have experienced issues such as failure or structural damage should be immediately removed from service. Such doors need to be repaired by a qualified technician before returning to service. If you have any questions about the installation or operation of the MxV dock door, please contact DL Manufacturing.